So this is a first, really. I've reviewed webcomics, I've reviewed novels, and this is the first time I've reviewed a manga. However, I'm not too unfamiliar with mangas. At one point, I did actually read the entire anthology that was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Winds. However, this was many years ago, and I was quite thankful to see that they gave instructions as to how you're supposed to read this. Even then, I even got a little confused because I accidentally thought, well, the binding is this way, so I figured this is where the beginning of the book is. But for those that have read manga, they know that the beginning of the book is here. It's backwards because the Japanese, as far as I can tell, read right to left, while in English, they read left to right. So that's a little something to get used to, but once you keep that in mind, it becomes a lot easier. The Bride Was a Boy. This is a somewhat autobiographical work by Chii. She is a Japanese trans woman who, after her transition, went on the great epic journey of holy matrimony. She got married. This one was actually recommended to me by a commenter. I was reviewing I Want to Be a Cute Anime Girl, and they said, hey, this is kind of similar. Cute art style, very trans positive, very uplifting. And so I decided to give it a go. And I was not disappointed. I was hoping it'd be a little longer, though, because I had to pay $15 for this, but that's not the fault of the author. That is just me not finding a good deal. But anyway, I love how this manga begins. First, Chii introduces herself, basically saying, yes, so this was my life, this is my husband, now let's get into the story. The first chapter, we go over how Chii met, who's only referred to as Husband Kun. I hope I'm saying that right, because I feel like that's really close to being a problem. But anyway, they met in a very typical fashion. She just started her transition, and he just saw a gorgeous woman in front of him and just wanted to get to know her better. One thing led to another, and they started dating more frequently. However, this kind of upset Chii a little bit, as she knew that she would have to reveal her dark secret to him, and she wasn't really sure how he was going to take it. However, he took it like a champ. This didn't change a bit. He still saw a gorgeous woman, and now he just knew her a little bit better. From there we go into Chii's childhood. Now what I find rather fun is that at the end of each chapter there's just kind of a little deep dive into other things people might ask about people that are transgender, the LGBTQI plus community. They had so many letters all the time, I just refer to it as the alphabet soup. It includes everyone that way. Now what's kind of interesting is before each chapter there's like a little bit of introspection. This was something I never really thought of myself, is this idea that in transitioning you kind of have, you were raised as a boy but become a girl, so you kind of have aspects of both almost. That's kind of hard to say. So as you can probably tell from that picture, this chapter deals with Chii's childhood. I'm a little jealous of her because she kind of noticed something was a little off all the way back in 3rd grade. She just wanted to play with some of the girls, but all the girls just kind of went up to her and said, you can't do that, you're a boy. And that was probably the first time that conversation ever really kind of came into her head. It's just kind of like, something is off here. As they got older, it didn't really help out that much. Now, here's something important to mention. Now, when it comes to transgender women, there's a term used called new half. I'm not really sure if this is an offensive term, but I figure it's important to cover, because she mentions the poster child for that were known as new halves. The reason they're called that is because they still have male reproductive organs, but they have a female body, so that is the new half. That was not something that she wanted to be part of. She did, however, look up what was known as GID, or gender identity disorder, which she says it's fallen out of fashion, which I feel like it must have. With all the research I've done into this subject, I haven't really come across this yet, aside from this manga. And probably one of the sections I always like to reveal is just this little part right here. I just always find that kind of funny. I guess everybody kind of has their own way of thinking, how in the world is this metamorphosis supposed to take place? Like, wrap up in a cocoon and then they hatch to become a beautiful woman or something? There's a lot of moments throughout the manga where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm right there with you, sister. It adds a bit of relatability, and it even kind of got a bit of a chuckle out of me here and there. Another thing I'm rather jealous about as well is that her parents were very accepting of this. In fact, the mother almost kind of suspected something for a while yet. Without getting too dark, because I want to keep up this happy and upbeat tone, not how it worked for me. But one of the things I find kind of funny, so I'm not really sure if this is a popular thing anymore, but people have what's known as a coming out party, which now that I know what it is, I feel like an idiot. What I thought a coming out party was is that if you're gay or trans, you were hosting a party and then you just kind of told everybody what the problem was. But no, that is not it at all. A coming out party is more the idea that your child has reached adulthood and now they are available to date by anybody who wants to. And one of the things I find funny is that she actually goes through this ceremony twice because her mother just felt like it was right, and, well, in a way, she always wanted to do it again with a little girl. She was actually the youngest. She has an older sister and an older brother. And here's one of the things I'm happy she included is her love life in the before times. I'm not gonna lie, this is something I really couldn't relate to because she always liked boys. I didn't. I mean, now I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm seeing not all men are ugly, but that's about it. But anyway, she ended up going into an old boys' school, which made things pretty complicated. She would try to drop hints every so often that she was interested in some of her friends, but they usually took it as, why in the world are you being so nice to me? Stop all these favors. This is just weird. They never really got the hint that she was trying to say that they'd be interested in a more romantic relationship. She did try a few times to date girls because that seemed perfectly normal and a lot of people were just kind of shoving women onto her. Which, wow, I would have probably loved to have that. Actually, no, that's completely wrong. I wouldn't have really found a relationship something worth putting into until I was almost done with college, actually. She tried to date women, but there was just nothing there, and most of the time there were just breakups after maybe a few months because there was just no spark, no energy. There was just nothing to the relationship. It was just something to keep up appearances. And then the next chapter, I don't know what it was, but I found this one, like, almost hilarious to some degree. There was just a few points in here that just made me laugh like crazy. But first off, I love how they introduced this chapter. It's just kind of like, yes, so this was my life going through a transition. You know, I'm kind of half tempted to draw one of these myself. Although I don't have that good of an art style, but it would be interesting. So yes, as you can tell, this is chronicling her surgery. Now, a lot of people may know that Thailand is kind of a mecca when it comes to bottom surgery. And this is no exception. Being in Japan, Thailand just seemed like the best place to do it. And plus she said the price was just right. I'm going to imagine it's probably gotten a fair bit more expensive now. Mostly because everything's expensive now. At first, this was something she was planning on maybe like 6 months on down the road, while husband Kun just kind of wanted to maybe make plans for getting married. But she got an amazing deal to go to Thailand, and she immediately went for it. I can't imagine how scary this must be, because not only are you having your surgery in a different country, they speak a different language, thank goodness there were interpreters for her, but this was the first surgery that she has ever had in her life. And on top of that, she was just kind of going for the whole enchilada, so in addition to getting bottom surgery, she was also getting a little more volume in this area, which apparently that's being done both at the same time, so I'd say that's a pretty good value. And then the other one is what's known as a tranquil shave. It helps get rid of this annoying thing. I still find that kind of impressive that she was able to do all that in one go. She was pretty tired for a while after that and mostly just slept. But by the time she got up to walking again, all the nurses were just kind of like, oh wow, you look so beautiful as a woman. To which I relate to her fully, which is just like, what? No, 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 I can't be. Really? Something very shy and kind of cute like that. After surgery, she comes back, where husband Kun formally proposes. Well, he tries his best anyway. He's a rather awkward character, and it was made pretty obvious that he was trying to propose by taking her out to this lavish restaurant. Why don't you hold this little box for me? You think I should get down on one knee for this? Stuff like that. And then after that is the wedding itself. But before the wedding, there is a little bit of a darker turn here, which I think was actually really important to put in here. So the main thing to note is that this book came out in 2016, so maybe the situation has changed. So, a common example that is brought up is if a man and a woman get married, but one of them realizes they're trans. They can undergo surgery as well as a whole bunch of other things, but in order to legally change their gender on their documents, they have to get a divorce. And unfortunately, they can't get remarried again because gay marriage is illegal. It's kind of a catch-22, like, yes, you can fully transition, but everyone's just going to be confused because male or female is going to be on all their sources of identification, so that's just going to cause even more problems. I do hope the situation has gotten better, but if any of you were living in Japan, can you let me know? I'd be very curious. However, she wasn't married before the transition, and she legally changed her gender before the wedding anyway, so she's perfectly fine. She mentions that she has a really good friend that's gay, and she was just kind of saying how happy she was for the wedding, but then she's like, oh no, this is kind of insensitive for you, isn't it? And the guy's just like, you're getting married, you're supposed to be happy, don't worry about me. Which I think that's the sign of a good friend right there. Preparations for the wedding brings up a few perspectives I never really thought of before. So I guess when it comes to certain weddings, there'll be like picture collages of like what the married couple used to look like when they were younger and their kind of growth throughout the years, and this is the next chapter in their life. But Chii is like, that is not a good idea. There's a lot of people in this audience that don't know I was born a boy, and that would just probably cause a lot of problems. To which husband Kun is just like, yeah, we'll just skip that for now. And then the other thing is she was going dress shopping with her mother. This is another thing I'm rather jealous about. But before all this, husband Kun goes to her parents and formally asks permission to marry their daughter. To which both of them just kind of smile and nod, saying, yes, you can marry our daughter. Yet another thing I'm rather jealous of. But once again, I don't want to bring the tone down. Surprisingly, the marriage went well without a hitch, which is surprising because she had a few cousins that often like to start trouble, but they were perfectly fine as angels the whole time. And at the end of the ceremony, she was just trying to be brave and strong, but after she said I do, just the waterworks just pour off all over her face. But yet somehow her makeup wasn't ruined, so that was divine intervention there. And then the book ends with them making plans for their honeymoon. Husband Kun is kind of curious to see Thailand for himself, since he didn't really have the chance to be able to do it the first time around. But she didn't want to go back there. And then they bounce across a few ideas of places that are like famous for either trans or gay rights, and they're like, you know what, why don't we just go on a normal vacation, but whatever, we don't have to do this. And it just ends from there. It's a very heartwarming story, and while there are parts I'm definitely jealous of, it's just kind of nice to be able to get something a little more positive when it comes to people that are trans. If you want to find negative stuff, that's everywhere, but positive stuff, that's something you have to dig for. In general, I just always like hearing people's journey through their transition. As for my transition personally, like, I always keep looking forward as to how much further I have to go. But stories like this kind of put it in the perspective for me about how far I've come already. And the idea that, well, in some aspects, I've honestly been kind of lucky about. Others I realize could have been a lot better, but hey, in every life a little rain must fall. So yeah, that's The Bride Was a Boy. I highly recommend it. It's a pretty quick read. In fact, it took me like maybe 4 days to read it, and that was me like genuinely taking my time with it. Like I do with everything I read, really. If there's any other trans media you know of that's a little more upbeat and maybe even in a cute style like this, feel free to let me know. I'd like to see more of this kind of stuff. And hey, maybe if there's a show out there that has like a similar theme to it, maybe I'll check that out as well. Until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.